Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Day, Q&A Saturday, Sleep-In Saturday, because we've been waking up at 5 a.m. doing this podcast. If you're new to this show, listening on Facebook, hey, we do this every day. It's a regular study of yoga philosophy. They say that if you... The yoga philosophy itself says if you really want to imbibe this stuff, you got to do it every day. But isn't that true with anything? You want to get good at violin? Do it every day. Want to get good at, I don't know, art? Do it every day. Things you do on a regular basis, they become, what's the statement?
Nature.
Second nature, right? What we do on a regular, I have a good like YouTube, or I mean a good Instagram little quote, but I can't remember it right now.
10,000 hour principle.
10,000 hour principle. Repetition is the mother of mastery. Huh? Anyway, this is the day that we field people's questions. So if you have a question, you write it in, you send it to Mara, who's our assistant there. She's in the kitchen. If you're watching on YouTube, she's multi-talented. And she writes down all these questions, compiles them into a list, and sends them to me and Kaustubha, and then we talk about them.
Where do they send it?
They send it to Wisdom of the Sage. Thank you. Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I just want to mention we're getting a few more donations. We have a list of people who ask for scholarships for our Wisdom of the Sages retreat. Me, Kaustubha, and Mara, we're doing this Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Cali, Colombia at an ashram. And some people write in for a scholarship. They want to go. They can't afford it. And then we have some really nice donors who have the resources but just can't go. So these trips, when you immerse yourself all day long in powerful company of like-minded souls, where you're hearing and chanting and studying and eating together, and you just take that special moment, a week of your life, and you get very concentrated. It's like a superfood for the soul, and it really affects you in a deep way. That's why when people come back from pilgrimage, all they say is things like, I can't stop thinking of that trip. It's not because, it's a pristine beach, or it's like, there was a great coconut tree. It's not just the backdrop. It's the company we keep and the sound vibrations that we hear, and it sticks with us. So there's people who, travel with us to India, and they'd be like, you know what? I can't go, but I'd like to sponsor someone. So I want to thank those sponsors. If anybody wants to sponsor somebody, also write Mara, Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. And you can really help change a person's life with that. And if you need help and we have enough, we'll give out as much scholarships as we can. But that's happening in January, mid-January. It's all on my website, Raghunath.yoga. So that's, yeah. How are you, Kaustubha?
Doing all right. Happy to be with you and everybody. Yeah.
I had some sad realizations before we get into the Q&A yesterday. Can I share them with you?
Sad realizations.
You mind me sharing? Good morning, everybody. I'm going to share some sad realizations.
Let's hear.
Mara, where's that thing you wrote down to me? You emailed it or texted or what?
I texted
WhatsApped
it this morning.
You texted it to me. All right. I told Mara, write these down because I'm going to forget these for the show. So Kateri, some of you know Kateri, a regular Zoomer. She invited me and Mara out to this restaurant. And she's like, you're going to love this restaurant. It's the oldest Italian restaurant in Albany. You're going to love it. And so I was like, all right. You know, we went out. We were excited to see Kateri. She's like enthusiastic practitioner of spiritual life. And she said, I was like, how old is this restaurant? She's like, it's like 42 years old. I was like, oh my God, like a 42-year-old Italian restaurant in an old Italian neighborhood. So we were all excited. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I was like, 42 years old. I was like, how do they deliver the pizza dough here? Like on horses or something like that? And then it just hit me. 42 years 42. Is only like 1980. It's not that long, 42 years. It's like, what the hell? And so that like struck me. Like 42 years ago, I was like I was in high school. I was in high school 42 years ago. That's pretty sad, wasn't that? That was like a little shit. That shook me up a little. Then another thing Kateri said, which really shook me up, was, yeah, I have a friend that lives in one of these elderly projects, and they like it there because, you know, I was like, what do you mean a project? Like, you know, they got to be 55 or older. I was like, wait a second. The elderly thing is 55 and older. Can they raise that a little bit? Like, I'm qualified for the elderly community. Now that's like
maybe you need one.
What?
maybe we need. It's a wonderful place, Raghunath, and it's because we love you that we're bringing you there.
Goodbye now. Don't drop me off there. I can see Mara just wheeling me in, and later, Raghunath. Do I still get my microphone, Mara? Yes, it's a pretend microphone.
Okay, Raghu, we're getting old. We're about to have our birthdays. It's not too far away. You're going to be 56.
I know. Me and Kaustubha have birthdays practically on the same time.
Close,
right?
Close.
Mine's January 11th. Send your presents to Mara. We'll give you a dress later. And Kaustubha's is January 31st. We're about to be 56. That means our parents, our moms, could have run into each other at the store and said, hey, you're pregnant, so am I. We could have known each other.
Yeah,
you know? Okay.
All right, why don't we get started here, Raghunath?
Let's get started. So it's Q&A day. We have questions. Yeah. People write in their questions. Let's see what's they got.
Okay, the first question is for the both of us.
I like that.
And it's coming from Anonymous Jane Austen Heroine.
What?
Yep.
Anonymous Jane Austen Heroine? People are writing code names. Yep. What happened to Anonymous?
This is Anonymous Jane Austen Heroine. It'll become clear as we read the question.
Okay.
This is a really good question. A lot of the questions that came in this week, they're like, sometimes you get philosophical questions, and sometimes you get like these personal. A lot of these questions today, they're like practice questions. Like, I'm trying to practice this, but I need some help. You know,
yeah,
I'm struggling with something in the practice. And so Jane Austen Heroine's question is like that. She writes, Haribol, Kaustubha, Raghunath, and Mara Prabhus. You all keep me tethered, and I'm grateful for that. I have been around the movement for a while. You were just dying to throw a joke in there, weren't you?
No, I just wanted to comment.
Keeping someone tethered. Huh?
Oh, tethered, yeah. No.
I've been around the movement for a while, decades. Over
movement
the hill
means a group of Hare Krishnas, like around those devotees. I'm just, people join on Facebook. They don't maybe know what the hell the movement is. All people practicing bhakti around other people practicing bhakti. So she's had that company.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Over the hill and divorced, I find myself battling with an internal tug of war, a war of shoulds. In other words,
again, she said she's over the hill. So I'm thinking, yeah, she's probably old. But I bet she's 43. Younger than me. She's 40, right. Over the hill and divorce. I said, what, 80, 90? No, she's probably like younger than me.
Okay. She says, I'm writing to ask you if you can help me choose which should is most beneficial for me. Should I do this? Should I do that?
Which should? I like that. Okay.
That me being an all-around mediocre devotee and subpar materialist. I have no outstanding potency either way. I understand. This is
She's very
straight
humble.
out humility. Yeah. I'm not a great spiritualist. I'm not really a great materialist either. No, but this is it's. I like their attitude. I have no outstanding potency either way. I understand that the devotee standard of sense control needed to gain connection with Krishna. I try to abide. At the same time, I know I want to be in a partnership with another human. I really want to love and be loved. I met someone who infatuates me, non-devotee. I wish I could
exciting.
non-devotee. Even more.
All right, so
exciting.
basically, she met somebody. She's infatuated that person, but that person doesn't follow their spiritual path. That's what she's saying.
That's right. They're a non-devotee. I wish I could turn it into real love and service for him, but all the sense gratification sirens are blaring in my head. I've broken off our connection. I'm not seeing him anymore. I feel like I'm looking down two paths. Path one, batten down the sentences. Forward ho. Bhakti path or die. How dare you ponder the realms of terrestrial love? Okay.
Terrestrial love. How about
Terrestrial.
extraterrestrial love? Ever try that?
That's right. Non-devotee and non-humanoid.
Non-devotee. And not even from this planet.
Okay. And then path number 2 is the other path, an entangling push and pull of the gunas, dragging me down into inevitable heartache and pain. Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
I get
So,
it.
Jane
We all
Austen,
get it.
Jane Austen heroine continues. I feel like I'm stuck, suspended simultaneously in hope and lamentation. Hope that love with a partner could work out versus hope that my connection with Krishna could become something beyond my current absorption. Lamentation for this capable but unused atrophied heart.
Aw, it's an atrophied heart.
That's a country song.
Yeah.
My unused atrophied heart. Versus lamentation of stepping away from Krishna by following my own material world pursuits. I can see that right now, perhaps due to lack of devotee association, I've been burned, she mentions. In other words, in that association with other bhakti yogis.
Sometimes things go south.
Why do
and
we
you get
burn
bitter.
each other so much, right? Why do we burn each other so much? But it happens. So she's been burned in that association. But she says, I can see that right now I want the human, and perhaps due to lack of devotee association, I want the human connection more, right? I want to be with someone, even if it's kind of making me forget my spiritual nature, my connection with God, and so on. This makes me feel guilty. Okay, guilt is sitting, and all these things. People struggle with these things, right?
These are real life struggles. It's a great question.
It's a great.
I got
question.
a great answer for it.
All right. Well, hold on. We're not done yet.
I know where she's going with this.
Okay. But I can't kiss Krishna goodnight or hold his hand as we walk in the park. Do I just need? You're the one that says date Krishna first, Raghunath. Well, she's saying, well, I'm trying, but he's not here. You know, what can I do? So she goes on. Do I need to morph into a Jane Austen heroine adhered to righteous principles that wither her vibrancy and vitality into a wise old spinster? Okay, that was a bit dramatic. Is this a Riven Cloud situation? Bhagavad Gita 638.
Yeah,
Riven Cloud meaning like I wasn't a good materialist, I wasn't a good spiritualist, I got nothing going for me. Like, right? Is it a spiritual weakness situation? Just buck up, buddy. Material love isn't real. Is sacrificing the object of the senses into the fire of the senses applicable here? Like, is there a way that I can engage my senses in a way that connects me rather than disconnects me with God? Should I try to find partnership, or should I just keep turning towards Krishna? Eventually my heart and mind will fully settle into bhakti. Thank you for this amazing show. It has been a lifeline. Hare Krishna.
So
Raghunath,
sweet.
why don't you start it?
Let me jump in on this.
All right.
You can call me the love doctor. That's okay today. You love Ayurveda. This is an Ayurvedic doctor, love doctor. We use this analogy, like once you start imbibing bhakti or imbibing truth or wisdom literature, it's like joining the mafia. you know too much, isn't it? And like, if you join the mafia and you want to leave the mafia, they have to kill you. So you know too much. She's been around Bhakti too much.
And we're gonna have to kill you.
Heard too much. Yeah, now that we're gonna have we're gonna have to kill you. Where do you live? No, what happens is your material life is killed, meaning you know too much about going into material life, and therefore there is no good answer. Now, now the materialist, what they just do is they just go through, they bump their head against the wall, find some, bump their head against the wall again, repeat, run east looking for sunsets. That's just what they do. And they're covered in a cloud of romance and then a broken heart. And that repeats. And sometimes you find a heart that matches, but then you have the problems with material love, which is there's loss. There's sometimes deception or betrayal, or sometimes you work out everything good. My parents never got divorced. They were married. They loved each other. And then my father dropped dead. And then there's that. So we're not poo-pooing relationships at all, but there's a problem with material existence, that the gloss, the Photoshop, right, of material life, the romance of material life gets punctured when you start reading wisdom literature. And what Jane Austen heroine is doing, she's bringing up what's true for all of us. We're trying to find a material situation to make us whole and complete. So that as far as I'm concerned, there is no answer to your question. That's my answer. There's no answer to your question. I'm here to make you happy about that. There's no good answer, because you could find a materialist, or when I say materialist, a person maybe who's not on your spiritual path, but is a good person that supports you and loves you and encourages you on your spiritual path. That's out there. Or you could find a person that is completely on your spiritual path, but just grinds you. After the romance fades, and it does, that's just natural, then they just grind you and drive you crazy, or some like other thing appears that this person has some issues that they never show their whole hand to you. Oftentimes we joke about this. You never meet the person that you're dating until a year. You ever heard this? You just meet their representative.
Doctor,
you just meet their representative.
I haven't heard it before, but if you're
Hi, I'm representing Raghunath. He's really cool, down to earth, funny. But you meet the person after you hang out with them for a while, and then they start to show who they really are. Okay. So there's no good answer. You're
going to be tortured, and that's life.
Yeah, but I will say, I make better decisions.
Okay.
To the more I keep saintly people in my life. No. And the fact that you said wisdom of the sages is assisting you to be tethered to your spiritual life, that's a big statement. Not because me and Kaustubha think we're, great gurus. We don't feel like that at all. But what we do is we read the Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavatam comes out of our mouth. You guys hear, questions come, we have conversations. And the Bhagavatam keeps us tethered to a spiritual realm. And therefore, whatever you can do to add spiritual truth to your life, it will help you on life's rocky paths. It'll help you. Matter of fact, I find, and I just had this conversation with Raghunath Swami yesterday, and he said, Raghunath, you don't have to worry about, meeting another person or something. He said, you just keep adding Krishna to your life, keep going on with your duties, and then Krishna will just manifest. Exactly. It'll become very clear what he wants you to do. To the degree that we get tuned into Krishna, we start to listen and hear Krishna whisper of direction, left and right, up and down. There is a direction that Krishna is giving us, but we have to clean our ears out. I got big wax balls in my ears and I can't hear Krishna. So by a regular, whatever can keep us tethered to Krishna, do that. We'll hear those directions. And sometimes it'll be very loud.
All right.
Kaustubha?
Yeah, in one sense, there's so many different ways you could approach this question, right? You could take either side, or you can. I like what you said, which was kind of just like, I guess you're saying, listen for Krishna's voice and stay as devoted as you can.
Yeah. There's no winning. This guy she was dating could be a great guy, or of course you're gonna be infatuated, but
what exactly did that infatuation mean? You don't know. It's like
sometimes you need a little
infatuated.
Snuggle, Kaustubha. Sometimes you need a little
Well,
snuggle.
I mean, that was a little different. That generally the word infatuation, we don't like. It's not exactly snuggling that it's like associated with.
What?
It's
You know
more
what,
than
Kaustubha?
snuggling.
Next time I see you, I'm gonna spoon
Give me a
you.
snuggle.
I'm gonna spoon you, snuggle up you. I think you need a snuggle.
Okay. No, I haven't even begun to answer this question. Okay, so hold on.
Go.
I see a tension in this question. It's such a great question. It was such an honest question, and it's dealing with like a dichotomy that plays out in the practice of bhakti, and really it's like the question of how much renunciation am I meant to apply in my life, right? Like now there's certain yoga paths that are largely dependent on renunciation to be effective. You know, you want to practice Jnana Yoga, you want to practice Ashtanga Yoga, especially Jnana Yoga, you got to cut all these, you have to analyze all the, what is this boyfriend? What is the nature of the infatuation? It's based on, it's a bodily thing and it's an emotional thing. It's a mental thing. Cut those strings that are binding you, walk away from it. That's how that yoga is practiced. It's dependent on renunciation, but in bhakti, renunciation plays a role, but it's not dependent on renunciation. And one thing that we need to be careful about, and one thing that's one mistake within spiritual circles that can be easy to make is to equate renunciation with one's depth of spirituality, or to even more clearly, to equate one's renunciation with one's bhakti or one's devotion or one's love of God. They're not the same thing. In bhakti yoga, the goal is actually to love God. And whatever renunciation that we apply in our lives, the principle of renunciation, however we apply it in our life, is only to assist us in developing that. It's not the goal itself. And so the struggle here is that she's saying that, I can understand when I analyze it through the eyes of knowledge that that what I want from this person is really something that's not intrinsic to my soul, right? It's something external that I'm looking for, some kind of comfort. That's really what I find she's looking for, some kind of comfort and stability in life, some kind of emotional comfort and stability in life. And that's, there are worse sins in life. It's not like that is not necessarily like super destructive to the development of your love for Krishna. It can become that way, but it doesn't have to be. And so in bhakti, what a wise person, like a guru, a mentor in one's life can do for the practicing bhakti yogi is help them find a suitable amount of renunciation that is going to support their bhakti practice rather than break it.
I like that, Kaustubha. You're on.
Like that?
You're always on.
I'm trying, Raghu. I'm trying.
Good answer.
So the point is, this person, we don't know you personally, and we don't know this person that you're contemplating personally, and we don't know, your whole situation. How to advise you? We can't make this decision for you, but what we can try to do is give you the principles that you need. Kind of like maybe highlight the principles that you need to make this decision yourself. And so that honestly, when I read this question, I was just thinking, in my heart, what I was feeling was just I was feeling like kind of an affection for you, an appreciation for you. It was like softening my heart.
You want to give her a snuggle. Want to give her a snuggle.
Well, we'll call this a verbal snuggle, right?
Verbal snuggle.
No, but in other words,
a virtual snuggle.
Yeah, and I don't mean that just like sympathy. Like there was a sense of sympathy that I felt like I get it. You're in a hard position. It's tough, But also there was like just an appreciation. Like I appreciate that you're going through this struggle. That your devotion to Krishna puts you in this struggle. Like it makes you wrestle with this question, and you're wrestling with it so sincerely and openly. And I think that wrestling itself is an indication of your sincerity, and it's an indication of sincerity, the genuineness in your wanting to do the right thing, and the honesty. And this is the real important point, the honesty, right? Krishna, if we read all of our books, again, if you're studying like text on Jnana Yoga, it's going to tell you to walk away from it all, right? Because it's all illusion. But the Bhakti Shastras are a little different than that, When we hear, like, say, for instance, Sri Chaitanya and how he associated with all the Vaishnavas, we don't find that he had any problem with someone being married, right? We don't find that he didn't even have problem with people being spiritually weak and struggling. Yeah. What he had a problem with was hypocrites, right? Pretending to be something that you're not. And in your question, there was none of that. It was like straight out humility. You're not pretending to be something that you're not, and you want Krishna. That's a very powerful combination. It's more powerful, far more powerful, than someone who externally appears to be very renounced, but there's some sort of hypocrisy within their practice.
Like that.
That's a far more problematic circumstance. Then you're feeling my circumstance is so problematic. I don't have this natural renunciation. I'm having trouble walking away from things. That's far less problematic than appearing to be very renounced, but actually there's even for Sri Chaitanya, there's even a little bit of hypocrisy. He really turned him off, right? So all that being said, don't despair. That's my point. Don't despair. You're honest, and that love for Krishna that you want to develop, it may be closer than you think, and you may leave this body, appearing still like you're very much within like a material, I don't know, an unrenounced kind of circumstance, but your heart may become very soft due to your sincerity, and you actually. You may be more advanced than you think. All that being said,
good luck out there.
All that being said is what we want is to have a stable situation. You want to be emotionally stable. You want to be financially stable. You want, that can help. We don't want to be, we want to do that in a simple way that we can do. And if finding a partner like this who may not even be a practicing Bhakti-yogi could help you find a little emotional stability without dragging you off, if this person can respect your practice, if this person can appreciate your practice, and if you can see this person, even though they don't practice the same practice you do, but if, the word infatuation is a bit of a red flag, but if you can see this person as, in connection with God, and you can serve them, and with that understanding, then your relationship with them will not necessarily be dragging you in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And it may actually be a forum in which you can practice your devotion. Or the person could totally infatuate you and drag you off. So I don't know which one. I know,
there's no good answer. That's what I'm saying. There's no good.
Yeah. And that's why it's good to seek out someone in your life that you can really open up to, that you really respect and you think has a good feel for all of this. And they can help you make that decision. Maybe you're not in that circumstance right now. Maybe you're going to have to make that decision entirely on your own. Again, don't despair, right? Don't despair. We think you're on the right path, and we think you're going to make a good decision. We think even if you make the wrong decision, you're going to learn from it because of your sincerity. So good luck, Jane Austen heroine.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one. What can you do with a question like that? That was good.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to ask you another question, sir. Okay. I am wondering, this is from an anonymous Zoomer. There's Zoomers and there's others, people.
Yeah.
Zoomers are the ones who listen on... If you want to listen on Zoom, you can do that too. We do it every day. And you know what we do? We look at each other. We look at each other and we spy on each other's homes. We secretly message each other during the class. Or you can just listen on Apple Podcasts and you can binge listen. That's something too. They're out there.
Okay.
I'm wondering, here's the question from an anonymous Zoomer.
They may be with us right now.
Someone in the room here, but they didn't want to mention their name. Now I'm going to look around. Is it Carlos? Is it David Houseworth? Is it Jamie Love?
Study their faces as we answer the question.
As I read the question, look if their eyebrows lift. They're probably saying to themselves right now in their mind, look normal, breathe deep. It's like faking a lie test. Okay. I'm wondering if you could please talk about Tilak.
Tilak.
I understand it is a symbolic mark of our and other lineages. And I certainly understand priests and priestesses, I like that word, priestesses, wearing it for puja, etc. Still, I'd like to know more about who wears it and why, as well as when and for whom it is appropriate. Okay, so that's the markings on our forehead, the clay markings people put on the different parts. What is it, 11 spots on the body, Kaustubha?
12 spots.
12. Am I missing a spot?
You've been missing one.
I've been missing a spot all these years.
Yeah, so are you wearing Tilak right now? I can't see.
No, I like
it. Sometimes you do.
Well, I have a halo around me. I don't know if you can tell because I'm very spiritual. And then maybe you can't see my aura like others can, but you should work on that. Maybe chant your japa better.
How do you know I can't see?
Then you'll see auras.
All right. So Tilak is, some people may have seen, you'll see in the West, you don't see this. Sometimes you'll see Indian people with some form of Tilak, but in general, we don't do this in the Western world. We don't mark our forehead with different symbols. No. In India, it's a quite a regular practice. And so, there's an external aspect to it. There's an internal aspect to it. Just like any practice that we do in yoga or bhakti yoga, it has its external application and generally some external reasons, purposes, but always the deeper, more essential meaning is the internal purpose, right? So externally, the word tilak literally just means like a mark or an ornament. And so there are different types of tilak, different types of markings, according to, as our anonymous questioner was saying, according to the lineage that you're in, the particular lineage. You see Shaivites, right, worshipers of Lord Shiva, they have like 3 lines that go horizontally across the forehead. And what the Vaishnavas wear is called Urdhva Pundra, which it's 2 lines going vertically up the forehead. And even within the Vaishnavas, there's 4 different lineages, and even within those lineages, there are different branches. So like even within our branch, our particular Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, which is, part of a larger lineage, there are different varieties of tilak, right?
Yeah, it's cool. I used to have a tilak
Which
book
one's your
that showed
favorite?
all the different tilaks.
You had a book.
Like, a book. Nice. Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And so it's said that our marking it represents the lotus foot of Sri Krishna on the forehead, or Lord Vishnu on the forehead. And then that little kind of leaf-looking kind of point that goes on the nose represents the tulsi leaf, the sacred tulsi leaf, So in one sense, when you're walking down the street, according to your tilak, someone immediately understands who you are and what your faith is and so on. And I guess there's a certain convenience in that, but that's part of why people do it. But there's an internal reason to it too. And, even as part of the initiation process, in the Sri Sampradaya, how you wear these markings, Raghunath, you know what they do? At the initiation.
What do you mean how you wear them?
Well, in other words, when one's initiated, when one is formally accepted into the lineage.
Yeah.
Right, then there's a connection between the guru and the disciple, and there are different samskaras or different rites that are performed at that time. And so in our lineage, we call it pancha samskar. There's like 5 rites that are done. And one of them is the wearing of tilak. Like from that point on, I mark myself as a member of this lineage, and I mark it in the 12 points in the body.
Nice.
And people will, not that you can't wear it before, but it's part of that samskara. And I'm not going to go into, people give different explanations about those different parts of the body and the energy field and the nervous system and so on. And I'm sure there's probably something to that.
Explanations.
Yeah. But I'm not going to go there. But just in a very practical, like internal sense, when one enters that lineage, when one gives their life to that lineage, You got an echo coming, Raghunath, I think, somehow from your... from your...
You know what's weird? I'm on slow motion too. Like there's a
Yeah.
slow motion.
Okay. In any case, what one's doing when they get initiated in those rites, they're all to kind of deepen one's conviction to practice the practices of that lineage. And so one of the things we do is we mark our body that way. And it's saying like, my body is, in one sense, is not even my own. My body belongs to God. My body is a temple of God. And this marking on my forehead marks my body as the temple of God, right? God is situated within me as the Paramatma. I walk around totally unconscious of that. Well, let me mark my body as the temple of God to help deepen that conviction so that I will achieve this state of consciousness where at every moment I'm aware of that. And one way I can do that is by marking the body, taking the time to mark the body in the 12 spots and mark the forehead and so on. So it has that, that internal aspect that I'm going to apply it in this way. It will sanctify my body. It will dedicate my body in the service of God as a temple of God. It helps me identify myself in connection to God, and therefore I mark my body that way. But I like the way the great sage Bhakti-yogi Thakur, just wonderful, brilliant writer and so on. He wrote about those pancha samskars, those 5 rites that one goes through at the time of initiation. And when he was writing about this, the marking of the body, he said one should mark the body, the mind, and the soul with the Urdhva Puntra Tilak. And so it's not just an external thing like, hey, I'm a member, It's like within, internally, by doing that on a daily basis, one is internalizing one's identification with God internally, not just externally. So that's what Tilak's all about.
Beautiful.
It's something that, like, in the Western world, I get it, that it's like, to a lot of people, it's like bizarre. Like, well, you've got some kind of strange thing going on your forehead and nose, like, nobody does that kind of thing. What are you doing? But, you can even just do it with water. You can mark your body with the water. And then, in one sense, externally, people aren't seeing, but internally, you're doing the same exact practice.
Can you hear me okay, Kaustubha?
Yes.
Okay, I get it. Like, someone wrote on the message board, they think, have you ever had to take off your tilak because your partner thinks it's weird? I get that. The whole culture is sort of like weird. I like weird the
through
first
Western
time
eyes,
I ever.
right?
Yeah,
It's not weird, but it's weird.
Well, I started wearing an Indian dhoti, what males generally wear, an Indian robe, when I was in India, and then I came back and went to the Brooklyn temple, and I was pretty much working in that temple. And then I remember a Swami said, "Can you go out to the store and get me something?" And I was like, I have a dhoti on. I was like, oh, I want to change. And I realized, like, I was very, very self-conscious in America wearing a dhoti. And it's normal. I mean, and then after a while, that becomes normal, and you're like, you know what? No, I'm okay with this. This is cool. This is what I am. And so there comes to a point in your life too where you just feel like, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. This is like what I like. This is what I like to do. And if you don't like it, that's okay. But this is me.
Yeah.
You go through that phase. I can wear a dhoti now. Anyway, I can wear a dhoti in a mall. I feel fine. It was fun.
Okay.
It's cool. Tilak's cool.
All right. Now I got a question for you, Raghunath.
Yes, sir.
Coming from Justin Miller via email.
Alrighty.
First, for Raghunath, Kaustubha, and Mara, thanks for all you do. Well, thank you, Justin.
You're welcome,
I'm grateful that you're all in good health. Thanks for taking care of your online Sangha and giving us a space for bhaktas and the Bhakti curious to grow.
I'm Bhakti curious. I like that. That's a great word. Let's steal that, Mara. Write that down. Bhakti curious.
Bhakti curious.
I'm going to put that on the list.
I got into Krishna consciousness through New York hardcore, listening to bands like the Cro-Mags, Youth of Today, and Shelter. I had a lot of what I thought at the time were random run-ins with brahmacharis from the local temple where I grew up.
Nothing's
the seed
random.
was planted. The seed was planted, but it took another 30 years to sprout and grow into something substantial. Fast forward, I'm a career soldier and a single father with 3 amazing kids. I'm in a long-term monogamous relationship that existed prior to my decision to dive into bhakti. All right, this is where it gets interesting, Raghunath. You ready?
Yep.
With that said, here's my question and sub-question. How does an aspiring bhakta in a substantial relationship with a non-devotee manage the 4th regulative principle, meaning no illicit sex? Right? I think that it's probably easy for most of us to abstain from meat, although it's not. I know people that even years struggle with
It's a
that.
struggle for a lot of people.
For some people it is. But he says, I think that it's probably easy for most of us to abstain from meat, intoxicants. People struggle with that too. And
People
gambling.
struggle with
There's
intoxicants.
people struggling with that even
Gambling.
too,
That's my favorite one.
okay. These are all activities that we can avoid as individuals. If illicit sex is defined as sex outside of a Vedically ordained marriage that is pursued for the sole purpose of procreation, how does someone in a long-term relationship or a non-Vedic marriage balance the physical and emotional needs of their partner with their own desire to serve Krishna in an appropriate state? Will I ever be able to take initiation if my partner or spouse is not a devotee? So that was the sub-question, the last sentence there.
Great question. Congratulations for asking the love doctor.
Oh, that's right. We got the
My
love
name-
doctor.
That's my name today. I'm the love doctor. The idea of these principles, why we're not going to gamble, we're not going to take drugs, we're not going to drink alcohol, we're not going to have illicit sex. Why are they there in the first place? Is to sort of like so some religious authority keeps control of us, keeps us in a box, doesn't want us to have fun, wants to rain on our parade. When we hear about restrictions, that's the first place my mind goes. Who's trying to restrict my fun? I remember growing up Catholic and I was thinking, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Who is this sadistic God of yours that is trying to like take away all our fun? In the Vedic paradigm, we don't look at restriction as taking away freedom. It actually enhances our freedom. And all 4 of these principles are there to enhance our freedom. And I find to the degree that I put them in my life becomes less complicated. There are 12-step groups all over America in church basements because people didn't follow the principle of no intoxication. And now intoxication has become or some drug of choice has become their master. There's people in the same type of programs for gambling who've lost everything from gambling. There's things like that for the people who have no parameters with their sexuality. There's people who have become callous, that all living beings are sentient beings. I'm looking at Carlos petting that dog. That dog is a sentient being, but so is a cow, so is a calf. So, which is to help us develop this higher vision of spirituality. So those restrictions are to give us entry into a place where there's a little bit more freedom, a little bit more peace, and a little bit more connection. It's not the goal. The goal isn't to follow the principles, but it assists you to walk into the threshold of a new spiritual life. And it's hard because all 4 of those things are highly addictive, right? It's one thing if I say, would you like an apple or would you like some heroin? You know what I mean? They're highly addictive. And once you taste a little bit of that forbidden fruit, you get very attached to it. And I think it's safe to say some of us have got attached to one of these things that have maybe even either dismantled our life or dismantled the life of someone we love. I think it's safe to say we know somebody in that, or we ourselves are part of that category. So with sexuality, I get it. This person wants to have like an upright life, do the right thing. And again, the idea isn't that we give up some type of joy, but the idea is that we have to regulate those things. Sexuality, it's a big part of who we are. It has to be regulated. And it sounds like you're regulating it with a committed partner. Now, there's going to be people practicing bhakti or gurus even that might disagree with me. but just being in the concept of a relationship
A lot of gurus
in
out there may
America,
disagree with me on this.
every guru's right, but it depends where we're at. We have to regulate our sexuality, because ultimately our highest pleasure isn't going to come from sexuality. Our high pleasure is going to come internally.
Okay.
And so, and the problem with not regulating it is, if you're not serious about the person and you get the person pregnant, and that happens a lot, then your life becomes very complicated. And so these principles, again, are to give us a little peace in our life, not to take away peace in our life. So as far as like getting serious about initiation, if you're, I think depending on who your guru is, I don't think there's hard, fast rules for that within a spiritual practice. But the teacher wants to see that you're serious about your spiritual life, and that's also the reason why marriage is there. Why? Because you want to have some type of commitment. You want to show up with a commitment for a person. It's not just like, I'm going to run through people. Okay, this person's boring me now. Move on. We want to be, when we develop a commitment towards something, we have to work out our issues. When you commit to anything, you got to work out your issues and stay in that container of growth. And that's why there's commitment, and that's why there's values, etc. So I am not going to get maybe any more explicit with that. But that is the highest principle, is that we have to regulate the senses. If we can't fully control them, then we regulate them. And the best way to regulate sexuality is with one committed partner that you want to go through that whole process. And you're in it right now. You're committed. You're raising children with that partner, and sexuality will regulate itself. Generally, it finds once you throw kids in there, self-regulates in a marriage. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Raghunath,
the Love Doctor. I'm Raghunath, the Love Doctor. Lovedoctor.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was some similarities with this in the first question that we dealt with, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I was thinking in relation to both questions is that the Shastra, the sacred text of the Bhakti tradition, the sacred text of the yoga tradition, they're vast, and they're speaking to people on different levels of progress, different levels of renunciation, different levels of sense control, and so on. And so it's good. You're going to get a vast amount of instruction. And some of that instruction is really geared towards like heavy renunciation. And some of that instruction is like far more lenient, Even if you're hearing what Prabhupada says, sometimes Prabhupada's speaking like in a way that's like, it's like very demanding, And then sometimes he's speaking in a way that's far more accepting of a lesser standard, you could say, or a less strict standard, let's say. And so if you read it all, it can put you in Jane Austen heroine's kind of circumstance, It's like, God, I'm torn between this, It's like, it seems like there's only one way or the other. But really, all of that instruction is there so that someone that's got some experience and some sensitivity, can help one find which instructions are most applicable in my circumstances, at the particular time and circumstance that I'm in. And as I age and as I go through changes in life, we may adjust it, according to the, you'll have one standard when you're 30 years old. Then we're gonna adjust that standard when you're 50 or when you're 60 years old, And so what this person was writing, to be in a monogamous relationship, to be in what to speak of a married relationship, that if there's sex within that relationship, it's not the end of the world, and it's not the end of your bhakti practice. And please don't think that it is, right? Like, that's a pretty reasonable human standard. So like, good for you, Yeah. And then on top of that, for the sub questions, like it's not a prohibition to be married to someone who's not a devotee to become a Vaishnava. And we know plenty of people in that circumstance who are thriving in their devotional lives,
Sure. Matter of fact, then you got to work other parts of your personal growth. Like, can I accept the person? Can I love a person who might not agree with me on certain values? That works a whole nother part of our spiritual evolution. That's why there is a power in commitment and a container. Okay. Do we have time for another question, or we gotta wrap it up? What time is it?
Wrap it up. Play a little music. But tomorrow, what's happening tomorrow?
Oh, tomorrow. Well, Shama Sundar couldn't do tomorrow, but Shama Sundar is up. And if you know Shama Sundar, he's so great. I had a hour talk with him. He's the most interesting guy I've met. Basically, Beatles got the Beatles. He's got a new book
Shama
out.
Sundar, but what's happening tomorrow?
What's happening tomorrow is Madhu's coming on. We're doing class on breaking down Bhakti basics. People asked about questions, so we're going to Q&A Madhu about. He's really bringing in Bhakti into new people's lives, so we're going to poke around with him.
Okay.
And you'll love him if you don't know him. He's an incredible musician. Bhakti basics in our life, and a little bit about his journey and what he's doing. He'll also be joining us in Colombia. The Shama Sundar's on the list. Drew Lawrence is on the list.
You still haven't answered my question about Wednesday.
And I'm working for...
Huh?
Wednesday, we have
Kaylee.
Madhu, this other Madhu from Thailand, who's this book about Kaylee. Oh, Kaylee.
Kaylee, his record
I
came
know,
out.
Kaylee, the singer. We want to get him on a walk on Wednesday, too.
Can we do him this Wednesday?
Okay.
Huh?
Kaylee's record came out. Okay, we got to spread the word about that, Mara.
So can we bring him on Wednesday?
The next 2 Wednesdays are booked.
So then let's just bring him on Tuesday or Thursday or something.
The next Wednesdays are booked.
Huh?
The next 2 Wednesdays are booked.
So I'm saying, why don't we just bring him on another day?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be Wednesday.
He's lovable, that guy, Kaylee.
He's lovable. Yeah. I think you love him, Raghunath.
Okay. All right.
All right, I'm going to reach
lovable.
out to him then.
I think you love him.
You love him, Raghunath.
I didn't want to say that, but... Okay, cool. You love him. All right, people. So that's it. So Facebook people, this is what we do. We do it every day. Tomorrow we're doing it at 8 a.m. It's interview day, and you're going to love Madhu. He's on tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. And then we have a road trip. Sunday night, we drive south to D.C. and then all the way down to Florida. So I'm going to be on the road for a couple days and then I'll be in Florida for a week. And there's a big Kirtan festival going on in Alachua, Florida. Looking forward to seeing all you Floridians, including Nitai Lieberman, my favorite Floridian.
Oh, yeah.
Fireball. Look, he's dancing already. He's excited. Nitai Lieberman, I did a Kirtan in Alachua last time, and he held the microphone for me, like a human mic stand, the entire Kirtan.
That's
He's
devotion.
Quite incredible, amazing kid. It's devotion. That's third generation Bhakti, that kid.
That's right.
You know, he's born to ascend past the higher planets to the spiritual realm.